Good morning, everyone. It's my great honor to join all of you. Special thanks to Fenway Digital. So, some of my personal opinions. First, I believe that the Chinese government is capable of leading us to fulfill the 5% GDP growth target that has been announced during the two sessions. Second, China's coal supply and demand has been transformed from this undersupply to oversupply. In the next 2 to 3 years, with the stabilization policy of the Chinese government, I don't think there will be major price hikes that took place in 2021-22. Three, China's economic growth is not contradictory to the downward trend for coal price. So the upgrade of China's economy must be supported by low-price energy and coals. So this is my topic today: China coking industry operation status and outlook under dual carbon goals. That is the carbon peaking and neutrality. First is the review of China's coking coal and coal market, and second would be the analysis of China's coking coal and coal supply changes, and third would be an outlook for the coking coal industry of China, and then the fourth would be the opportunities and challenges in this regard. This is the first picture. I will briefly talk about the electricity, the coke, as well as coal. In 2022, the total coal production has realized a major increase, realizing about 4.5 billion tons. And we can see a slight increase in coke. However, in terms of steel production, we see an oversupply situation. So there's a small decrease in crude steel and pig iron. And this is the situation of the iron and steel industry. In terms of power generation, in the past, we see this undersupply of steam coal, but now the situation has been eased. And in January and February of 2023, we see an increase in terms of raw coal that is up by 5.8%, and the coal up by 3.2%, while power generation is up by 0.7%. So the coal price is facing this downward trend, generally speaking. Here are some of the numbers concerning coking coal and coke. I will start from item 4. China estimated eliminated 30.43 million tons per and newly added 56.96 million ton per of coal making capacity by the end of 2023. And item 5, China is estimated to add 57.59 million ton per of new coal capacity, while estimated about 54 million ton per in 2023, a net increase of about 3.3 million ton per ton. So this might be slightly different compared to Ms. Ho's presentation. China is the world's largest coal producer and consumer, and the coal output represents about 68% of the world's total. In terms of iron and steel, let's start with item 3. China has added 56 million ton, withdraw 39 million tons of iron making capacity in 2022. This is a net increment of 16.8 million tons. This might be a bit counterintuitive. Last year, the iron steel industry's number is more promising than we felt. So this kind of iron steel industries are investing heavily and inspired by this high capacity, high profit margin. In 2023, China is estimated to add 45 million tons and close 40 million tons of iron capacity. This is a net increment of about 5.5 million tons. In 2023, the newly added capacity is basically proportionate. And last but not least, China is the world's largest steel producer and consumer, and China's crude steel output represents around 55% of the world's total. So there's a kind of deviation between iron production and crude steel production. So domestically speaking, the performance is a bit different than that of the foreign market. We see that in terms of the coking, our production market share is higher than that of the iron and steel. So this is the situation of coal, coke, and iron since 2016. We see that from 2016, the country undergone supply side reform. About 500 million tons of coal capacity have been closed down. So this is a massive transformation and upgrade of industrial structure. Besides, in terms of import, and the coal import totaled about 293 million tons in 2022, which is down by 9.2%. I think this year the import will pick up. In terms of coking coal supply, since 2016, our coking coal production has gradually rebounded, and there's a situation of high supply-demand balance. So this is the basic trend, and it's very similar to that of coal. It has a very similar curve, as you can see. But there is some significant change that took place in 2021 to 2022 due to COVID and some of the clearance at the customs. The import of Mongolia as well as Australian coal shrank. But in 2023, we have restored the clearance at the customs of Australian and Mongolia coals. So we believe that the supply of coking at the domestic market will become more abundant. We believe that in 2023, the import of coke will increase substantially. This is the coke supply situation. This curve is a bit different from the last two. We see that since 2016, there's a major close down of some of the coke production capacity in Shanxi province. And in recent years, a total of around 110 million tons of obsolete capacity have been closed down. And China's coke imports totaled about 514,000 tons in 2022, and down by 62%. That is a very sharp decrease. But in 2023, we have reason to believe that will increase. In terms of downstream demand, China's steel production had been retreating after hitting historical high in 2020, and production for long process furnace steel is at 90%. The change of iron production in China is substantially different from the last three curves. We can see that it registered a very steady increase in terms of capacity and production. In the future, we believe that we will experience mild increase, but we believe that 2020 would be a high point in the foreseeable future. Will not experience a major increase. In terms of import and export, we actually see very good numbers in 2021 2022. The basic export is about 67 million tons in 2022. That is the net export. What does that mean? And that's about 5 to 6% of domestic production. This is the price logic. I mainly study coke here. The price of coke is correspondent in terms of the psychological changes.
So, if you take a look at the profitability of steel plants, if it goes up, then of course coke plants would have more production and more profitability. Otherwise, if the profitability of steel plants decreases, the same goes true at the coke industry. Over the past, the price has been driven by supply and demand, and cost on the other hand. In the second half of 2021 and 2022, it was mainly driven by supply and demand. In the second half of 2018, it was mainly driven by supply and demand. And in the second half of 2020, there was the major coke plants in Shanxi that was phased out, and that is why coke price increased dramatically. But after 2021 and 2022, the price has been mainly influenced by cost, because China introduced this dual carbon policy, and we saw a tight supply of crude coal, and that is why the coke price has increased dramatically. In terms of stock, for coking coal, if you look at the end of December 2022, the total inventory is 20 million tons, down by 30 million tons compared to 2013 and 10 million tons compared to 2018. So what does that tell you? It shows that the overall inventory of coking coal has been going down, and that is why the price has been stabilized or supported. Now let's take a look at the coke inventory, and the trend has been very similar to coking coal. As of the end of 2022, the total inventory of coke is 9.25 million tons. 1.96 million tons compared to 2020, and 3.4 million tons compared to the end of 2018. So the overall trend is going down for coke inventory, but the price has been going up slightly and steadily. Now let's take a look at the profitability of coal mines and its relevance to coal price. In recent years, coal mines have been making more profit according to the survey. Over 88 coal mines, the profit of China's coking coal mines averaged 836 yuan per ton. Because of that, the profitability of the industry has gone up in 2021. It's 836, and in 2022, the average profitability was 1,000 yuan per ton. And this year so far, it has been maintained at more than 1,200 yuan. But the coking industry has seen some difference in 2021 because of price increase. The coking industry has seen a very significant profitability because in 2021, the average profitability of the industry was 481.2 yuan per ton. And in 2022, because of the sluggish demand in the downstream of the industry, the price of coke has dropped, and the whole industry was at a verge of profitability collapse. In 2022, the average profitability of the coking industry was 13.5 yuan per ton, and in this week, we have seen some recovering trend, and it's 60 to 70 yuan per ton. In Shanxi, the profitability is above 100 yuan per ton. And now let's take a look at the coal mine capacity recovery. In 2022, the average resumption rate is more than 50%. And in 2022, in general, 99.3% of the coking industries have resumed. And there is the overcapacity of the coking plants, and the profit is going down. And that's why the resumption rate is very low. And in 2022, the average utilization rate of the capacity was 74.43%. In 2021, it was 81.13%. In 2020, it was 73.41%. In recent years, in terms of coking coal import, China is the major importer of coking coal. The expansion of steel production capacity and the scarcity of high-quality coking coal domestically have driven a large demand for imports. If you look at the data over the past 10 years, we're mainly importing coking coal from Mongolia and Australia. Over the past 2 years, we have been importing more from Russia, US, Canada, and Indonesia. They can play a supplementary role for China's coking coal imports. A couple of days ago, Premier Li Qiang passed a new decision that we are going to levy zero tax for coal imports. For coke imports and exports, you can take a look at our data from 2000 to 2008. So this is the first stage, and then the second stage is from 2008 to 2021. You can see that in the first stage, the price has been very high, and between 2009 and 2012, there was an excessive capacity, and so we exported a lot of coke. From 2009 to 2011, we restricted the import of resources, and there was 40% of the tax levied over coal exports. Over the past 2 years, starting from 2020, we saw an imbalance between imports and exports because of COVID. In 2021 and 2022, you can see an increase of both imports and exports. The Indonesian project will have major ramifications over China's imports and exports of coke. Right now, for coke exports, there is zero tariff, but we don't give you any tax refund. So this is the global coking coal prices and spread. In general, the trend has been similar to that of China domestically. In 2018, the price spread was 78.64 yuan. At the time, the coking coal price was 208.57 yuan. And in 2019, the spread narrowed to 57 yuan. And the same went to China's coking coal price and coke price. At the time in 2019, the coking coal price was 186 yuan and the coke price was 299 yuan. In 2020, the price spread for coking coal price was $100. And in that year, coking coal price was 145 yuan. But in 2021, you can see that the price spread internationally has narrowed. In 2021, the coking coal price profitability was 510 yuan, which was a fairly high level. But globally, the profitability of coking coal industries have decreased. In 2022, there were similar situations at home and globally. The coking coal price gap was narrowed to 8.3 yuan. But the coking coal price in 2022 was 369 yuan. Now let's move on to the supply side. So this is the domestic supply for coking coal. I echo the analysis of Ms. Ho, and in 2022, the growth room for domestic primary coking coal and fat coal is limited, and the growth rate in 2023 is expected to be basically stable. It will grow roughly at 0.49% in 2023. The release of the capacity in China would be very limited, and we believe there can be very limited increase of supply. From the import perspective, we believe in 2023 we're going to import 77.2 million tons of coking coal, up 20.98% or 13.39 million tons from 2022. And we can increase the import by 10 million tons from Mongolia. And for Australia, we believe we can import 5 million tons, and Russia and Canada. For Russia, there is a mild increase. For Canada, the same situation. For Indonesia, we will import only a limited amount of coal. And now let's come to China's coal capacity and distribution of 4.3 meter and below ovens. There are more than 30 million tons of capacity that has not been decided whether they should be phased out or not. We believe in the next 2 to 3 years, almost all the 4.3 meter and below ovens they might be phased out. So this is a distribution by province. You can take a look at this graph. The major coke province is Shanxi, Shanxi, Inner Mongolia, and Hebei, Shandong, and Xinjiang, and Liaoning province. So this is the forecast of China's coke capacity in recent years. This is how the capacity has changed over the years. I won't go into details, but in general, in the next few years, new coke plants with the capacity of more than 70 million would be put on ground. So that gives you a net increase of more than 10 million tons. So still there are a lot of pressures in this regard, and this is the projection of coke capacity over the period of 2015 to 2024. You can see that in 2015 and 2018 there was the excessive capacity, but in 2019 and 2020, because of the cut of excessive capacity, we have stabilized the landscape, and starting from this year, we are putting in place new coke capacities, and in 2023, we estimate a total of 563 million tons of coke. In 2024, we believe the overall capacity may hit 570 million tons. Later, it will be more market-driven. Those bad-performing coke enterprises, they will be phased out of the market. And this is the Indonesian coke project. And right now, they have a capacity of 20 million tons. The existing capacity was 3.17 million tons. They're going to increase the capacity by 17.1 million tons. And most of that would be invested during 2023 and 2024. So we have streamlined the major products, and we estimate that in 2023, Indonesia will increase the capacity by 11.6 million tons. The actual capacity increase would be 3.5 million tons. And why there is the gap? Because most of the investments would take place in the second half of this year. And after the investment is put on the ground, it will take some time before the capacity can truly be translated into reality.
So currently speaking, with an increase of raw materials, if you produce more, you will lose more. So that is the reality right now. Three, the outlook of China's coking coal and coke market. In terms of coking coal and market, the narrowing supply-demand gap, and we are also experiencing increased import offset domestic shortage. And there are 5 aspects concerning the landscape. That is narrowing supply-demand gap and limited domestic output increment, increasing import, strong demand, low stocks, and some the policy support in terms of ensuring supply. This is the situation and landscape of coke market. So to sum up, relatively low industry concentration, uneven regional supply demand, falling industry profit, and pressured capacity investment, and changed import and export landscape. So these are the coke market landscape in China. So we are facing this import and export changes. One of the uncertainty is Indonesia, and if we are seeing this new capacity being implemented in Indonesia, we will be seeing more excessive supply in terms of coke, which will possibly reduce profit in the coking coal market. In 2023, these are some of the projections that we have, both at the macro and the micro level. Macro in terms of macroeconomy, the World Bank lowered 2023 global economic growth, but remain optimistic about China. In 2022, China's GDP growth is at a reasonable range. In 2023, we have set the official target at 5%. So this is quite an optimistic projection, but I believe that the actual growth might be higher than 5%. And the growth speed, I think, will also be about 4.3%. And in terms of steel, coke, and coking coal, they will remain stable in terms of production, will increase in a steady manner. And when it comes to price, the price continue to fluctuate and will facing downward pressure. In the first half of this year, the coking coal will experience a mild increase. Recently, we are seeing some decrease in terms of price. So I think the center of the price will also move down. It has been remained steady for about 90 days, but we believe that the price center will go down from 2022. So, but we believe that profit margin in coking industry will restore. This is the relation of China's coal, coke, and steel production and GDP. We can see that there's an apparent positive correlation between the supply of coal and coke and steel and China's GDP growth. I believe that this year's GDP growth of China will be above 5%, so we can have a reasonable speculation that the coal, coke, and steel price, the production in China will also remain at a reasonable level in 2023. These are the predictions of coking coal and coal price and price spread. This is Shanxi's primary coking coal and Hebei coke price and price gap trend in 2020 to 2025. So in 2023, our projection is that price center will go down, but the price spread will be restored. By 2024 and 2025, the price center will continue to go down, but the profit margin of coke making industry may climb slightly, so about 100 to 200 yuan. Will not experiencing very severe, very high prices, 700 to 500, but will not suffer major loss as well. Here are some of the opportunities and challenges in the future. From this chart, we can know that we are now undergoing the third energy revolution, which might be it's a really epic period, a time for all of us. And we are transforming from fossil fuel energy era to renewable and clear energy era. And we are seeing in more and more progress and breakthroughs in landmark techniques and energy, and especially When it comes to environmental system, fossil fuel is a major contributor to carbon emission and environmental pollution. So we are seeing this environmental regulation being improved and optimized. In the future, after entering the renewable and clean energy, wind, solar, nuclear, and photovoltaic energy will become the major driving force and will be more fully utilized. Infrastructures concerning these renewable energies will also be developed. In terms of technology, renewable technology will continue to improve. This is the concept of carbon neutrality and carbon peak. Carbon peak means that CO2 emission no longer increase and begin to decline after peaking, and carbon neutrality refers to the enterprises, groups, or individuals offsetting their CO2 emissions through afforestation, energy conservation, and emission reduction to achieve zero emission of CO2. Which means that carbon peak is for the total emission to reach a certain level, while carbon neutrality means that an offsetting or trade-off between the emission and absorption or storage of carbon. So in 2020, September the 22nd, General Secretary Xi Jinping announced at the general debate of the 75th UN General Assembly's China's new carbon peaking goal and carbon neutrality vision. So this is a major historical transformation for China. In the coking and coal industry, we are experiencing major changes and historical moments. Here are some of the domestic targets of different countries.
我是准备是结合，就是说以国内就是最大的一个独立消化企业为例。
Now I will take one of the biggest group in terms of coking industry. Take one of the group as an example to talk about the coking industry's challenges and opportunities. This is the Shuyang groups being used as an example. This is one of the biggest groups in terms of coking industry. And we have established very sophisticated systems and business division. In order to realize carbon peaking and neutrality, a coking company should first address the problem of development. Without self-development, it will be meaningless to talk about carbon neutrality or peaking. So your business is the key. You need to extend your product line. You need to make full use of your own resources in order to reduce emission and realize and maximize the profit. From 1995, the year when we officially established, we never cease to better our efforts. For example, the using of ammonia, as well as some of the environmental friendly infrastructure for desulfurization. I think this process is continuing to better and optimize our production line and help us to realize the carbon neutrality and peaking. This is the map for our recycling economy. I think at the upper level of this map, you can see the coking process, and at the bottom, it's the cycling economy for oil production. So you can take a look.
好，下面再说一下这个另外几个就是下游产业，就是蓝碳、苯还有天然气的这样一个循环经济的业务。这个全部
These are some other products, including natural gas and benzene. You are also more than welcome to come to our industrial park to take a look. This is the park resources and its comprehensive utilization. This is the recycled economy of our park. For example, the wastewater and the gas utilization for power generation. We have world-class environmental system, and we continue to increase our input in environmental production to further reduce pollution emission. For example, the emission of sulfur dioxide has been reduced from 30 milligrams per cubic meters to 10. And the particle matter has been reduced from 15 milligrams to 5 milligrams per cubic meters. These are at the very advanced level and ranked, and we are one of the top enterprises concerning emission and pollution reduction. This picture slides is about carbon emission and management. We issued this action plan for carbon peak and carbon neutralization, and we follow the central government's instructions in terms of our actions. So we have realized environmental production in techniques, supply chain, and energy, as well as digitalization and intelligence.
And then for greenhouse gas emission, we refine the techniques, upskilled our supply chain system, deployed more new energy vehicles, and in Hebei we are using a lot of the new energy trucks. From an industrial point of view, we have presence nationwide. We have Shangdu, Huhart, Dingzhou, Xiaoyi, Piandianshan, Laoting, Cangzhou, Xingtai, Yuncheng, and Dongming Park, and also in Pingxiang and Caofeidian, we are establishing our presence as well. So this is our management over the production line. We take into consideration the demand from steel mills. We give them customized plans so that they can be able to produce coke of different grades. And we also put in place door-to-door services for every steel plant. We have engineers who visit their doors and communicate with them about their operation and production and customer needs. In terms of procurement, we have put in place a very smart system domestically. We're focusing on North China, East China, and Central China. We established a partnership with major authorities in China and domestic. Internationally, we are working together with Asian and European and American countries and also Australia. We have established stable procurement channels. As we grow in terms of productivity, our clients are now distributed all across the country. Take a look at this graph. at the bottom right corner, so we already have more than 57 strategic clients, involving a total of more than 279 million tons. What does that mean? And this is roughly 30% of China's total productivity in coal. So they are long-term partners of ours, and we are expanding continuously in terms of our global presence. We established a coking project in Indonesia with the capacity of 48 million tons, and we have encountered some difficulties, but we are trying every possible means to troubleshoot the problem, no matter it is our own project or other project that we do in a joint venture mechanism. We are following closely the development of the coking coal projects. We are coordinating both domestic and international markets, taking a deep dive in the Chinese market. Well, China is advancing with its dual carbon targets, and going forward, coke production will go down in general in the long run. So that is why we have to focus on Indonesia. We have to focus on Jiangsu, Fujian, and Guangdong, as well as other regions in China. At the global level, we have to focus on Indonesia and India. We believe India will be more and more similar to China in the past, and they will experience an explosive growth of the steel market, and some local plants in India and in Malaysia, they will have a lot of potential going forward. The same goes true for Vietnam and other countries in Southeast Asia. So this is about the Asian market. We're talking about mature markets such as South Korea and Japan, and we will make some breakthroughs in Europe and in US. There are some market barriers, but we're gonna seek breakthroughs going forward, and this is our global marketing network. Starting from 2006, we have piloted the trade business, and we have expanded the business volume and accurately grasped the market and prepared for the overall presence of the global market. We leveraged the global coal chemical resources and established the global marketing network. After many years of exploration, we believe there are great rooms of further growth. We are willing to share our experiences with all of you going forward. Thank you very much.